At the beginning of the 90s, a young man named Sean Puffy Combs will appear to us. And during the rap war that was between the West Coast and the East Coast gangs in America, the sparkle of this person will shine.
He said, I'm a businessman. I'm about making money. I don't give a fuck if Pac gotta die, Big gotta die, or Suge Knight go to jail.
At that time, there was a fierce competition between the rappers Tupac Shakur and Biggie. But in the end, as all we know, they will end up killed. That's true, killed. Tupac, who was one of the most famous rap artists in the world due to his musical catalog, which was somewhat large. Tupac started singing in 1991, and after just 2 years, he will become so famous for his music, in which he sang about the suffering of black people in gang wars in America. And on the other side, there was the notorious B.I.G., who was originally a drug dealer and used to record his own rap videos, which means he was just playing and freestyling and sending those videos to his friends. But one day, one of his friends sent those videos to a person named Puff, who was successful and famous, and he had his own production company. Well, this person was Puff Daddy, and he will like Biggie, and he will sign him to his company for $25,000. Because Puff had influence, he was able to introduce Biggie to major rappers of that time, like Snoop Dogg and Tupac, and Puff was able to meet up Biggie with Tupac, and they became friends. Pac stayed with Biggie, teaching and advising him on the secrets of the field and how to sell his songs to people. At that time, Puff Daddy was just their friend. He was like in the middle of them. Puff Daddy back then was greatly inspired by Tupac, to the extent that he imitated him in everything, even in clothes, singing, walking, etc. And this was according to people that were with him at that time. On Biggie's path to success, he will release the song Juicy, and later it will be discovered that it was stolen from a rapper named the Notorious B.I.G., whose song was very similar to this one.
But I ain't the one to pull short like a waste of my hits in your remember rapping Duke the hard, you never thought that hip hop would take.
But in your opinion, is this a coincidence? Everyone back then see that Puff Daddy was behind all of this, because he was a professional in buying and selling songs, knew the secrets of the field in America, and was known for doing all of this among singers. Puff Daddy was able to convince Biggie to steal this song, which was a successful song at that time. The majority of people were seeing that Puff Daddy was able to convince Biggie to steal it, because after hearing it for the first time, he knew it was going to be very successful, especially if it was released by someone who just started in the film industry. With the passage of time, the competition between Tupac and Biggie will ignite, and people will start comparing them. And because they were surrounded by gangs, this developed in a frightening way. Violent conflicts arose between them. In November 1994, Tupac was going to New York to record at one of the Quad studios, and by chance he will find Biggie recording at the same studio with Junior Mafia, and Puff Daddy also was there, because Biggie, as I said, was signed to Puff's company, the Bad Boy Records, and with them was a person named Jimmy Hashman, who's still in the prison to this day. Jimmy was waiting for Tupac to steal from him, because Tupac owned Jimmy and he didn't want to give it back to him. Jimmy was Puff's daddy's friend, and he had previously gone to Puff and told him that Tupac owned him and that he didn't want to give it to him. Jimmy asked what he should do with him, but Puff Daddy didn't say anything and left the matter between them. When Tupac arrived to the studio, he went to see a friend, the singer Lil Cease. He was his best friend and he was so excited to meet him. Lil Cease told Tupac that he would meet him in the hotel lobby. At the moment Tupac entered, someone came up to him with a gun to rob him, and things turned around and Tupac would be shot 5 times. During the investigation, Puff Daddy appeared in one of the videos, and right after that, he went to the studio where all the members of Bad Boy Records were. After this, Tupac said in an interview with Vibe magazine that when they shot him, everyone was there and just watching. Biggie was there, Puff Daddy, Andre Harrell, and about 40 other people were there, but no one came close to help him. Because of this, many believe that Biggie and Puff Daddy were the masterminds behind the attempts to kill Tupac, especially since Tupac had stolen the spotlight from Biggie and was loved by the people. Then, months later, Biggie appeared in one of the interviews and said that Tupac was just a liar, and that matter really bothered him because it wasn't true. After all this, months later, Tupac was convicted of sexual assault and ended up in prison for 9 months, which gave him time to think who was with him and who was against him. Now, listen carefully, because things are getting so complicated. After all these conflicts, Biggie released the song Who Shot Ya, which was like a clash with Tupac.
Who shot y'all? Separate the weak from the ops.
But the strange thing is that the song was recorded months before the attempt on Tupac's life. And here, the entire press turned to say that Puff Daddy and Biggie were indeed the ones behind the planning of Tupac's murder. They recorded the song so they can release it after dealing with Tupac. But later, the former president of Bad Boy Records would admit that Biggie is the one who wrote the song before all of this happened. But once everything occurred, the company decided to use the song to their advantage and market it as if it was indeed a conspiracy against Tupac, so the company could make more profit.
Biggie might not have thought that when he wrote the lyrics that it was going to be used for that. But the way it was marketed by the company and released in the succession of things that were going on that we were dealing with on all the levels that we were dealing, that record did what it was supposed to do.
Tupac spent his entire prison sentence knowing that Puff Daddy and Biggie were the ones behind all of this. While he was still in prison, he would sign a contract with Death Row Records because its owner, who is Suge Knight, would promise Tupac to get him out of the prison. Suge Knight and Big Jake would be in a nightclub in Atlanta, and from there, Suge Knight would meet Puff Daddy. He would try to hit Puff, but his bodyguard would intervene to protect him. At that point, shooting would start, and Suge Knight's friend would be shot twice and die. And this would mark the beginning of the biggest feud between Suge Knight and Puff Daddy. But the victims here were two of the best singers in the world, Tupac and Biggie. In 1995, Tupac would be released from prison and declare war on everyone. He would immediately go to the studio and record his album All Eyes on Me, and he would say that the next thing would be even greater, in that he was working on it with Snoop Dogg and another woman who named Faith. That's right, Biggie's wife. Imagine with me that Tupac, after he got out of prison, he would work with the wife of his biggest enemy. Rumors say that Biggie cheated on her with another woman, and she wanted revenge by befriending Tupac. And at the same time, Tupac would try to get close to Mary G, who was a close friend of Puff Daddy and his business partner. Tupac was really smart here, because these steps he took meant he was inviting people inside Biggie and Puff Daddy's circle to work with him and to surpass them. In 1995, Death Row would celebrate New Year's Eve, and one of Puff Daddy's friends, Anthony Bell, would be with them. They would beat him and would force him to drink pee after he refused to give Suge Knight Puff Daddy's address. In 1996, Biggie would win the award for the Best Song of the Year.
And the Soul Train Music Award goes to Notorious B.I.G.
And Tupac would win the award of the Best Album of the Year.
The nominees for the Best Rap Album are Me Against the World, Tupac.
So far, it was a tie. After that, Biggie would give his speech on stage and go directly to the airport. Here, Suge Knight and Tupac would follow him in a Hummer. And although Biggie was known for his violent lyrics, he was actually a good guy in reality, as testified by everyone who worked with him. In fact, he didn't even want beef with Tupac unless Puff Daddy got involved. As I said, Biggie was one of Tupac's best friends, and he would later admit that he had no involvement in Tupac's shooting. But things took a different course. Tupac had a successful career, and he only wanted to be rich, and he found himself in prison for a crime he didn't even commit, something everyone knew. Upon his release, he found gang members all around him. As you know, Suge Knight was also the head of a gang, not someone specialized in music, but rather a businessman and a drug dealer, and anything else you could imagine. Afterward, Tupac released a music video titled Two of America's Most Wanted, which included some profane lyrics aimed at Biggie and Puff.
Pop, please don't kill him. It was Puff's idea. No.
Then, Tupac would release one of his best songs ever, Hit 'Em Up, which was strongly directed at Biggie, Puff Daddy, and the entire Junior Mafia team.
Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia, some more gas.
It was extremely loud and intense back then. Despite Tupac and Biggie being in beef, all pressure was on Puff Diddy because everyone knew that he was behind all of this. And later, Puff would go out and say that he was just a businessman and didn't care if Tupac and Biggie died. All what he cared about was the money.
He said, I'm a businessman. I'm about making money. I don't give a fuck if Pac gotta die, Big gotta die, or Suge Knight go to jail.
Could you imagine the way this person thinks? Everyone knew this wouldn't end well. Here we are in 2024 and we see that everything Diddy said has come true. Biggie and Tupac are dead. Suge Knight went to prison, and all those who appeared in those videos, some of them are dead, and some went to prison because of all of this. Because of a guy that is full of selfishness and don't care about anything but the money. Now let's go back to 1990s. Everyone knows this game will not end well. On the 13th of September 1996, Tupac and the Death Row team were in Las Vegas watching a special team for the boxer Mike Tyson. There, Tupac saw a person named Orlando Anderson, who was a member of the Crips gang and had some real problems with the Death Row. When Tupac saw him, he rushed to him and started hitting him severely, and then all the members of Death Row did the same. They all attacked him and kept hitting him. And later that night, Tupac and Suge Knight were in a car and stopped in a red light. And suddenly, a white Cadillac pulled up next to them, and the shooting started at Tupac. In the previous year, Las Vegas police arrested a person named Dwayne Kifidi, accusing him that he was the one planned to kill Tupac. But the problem here is that this person had said in 2008 that his cousin Orlando Anderson was the one who shot Tupac, but he was not arrested and the case was not solved. Now, listen closely, because I want to share with you a conspiracy theory that many people spoke about, which is that the CIA were the ones behind all of this, and possibly sent Orlando Anderson to kill Tupac. Why is that? To take control of the rap world, and to end gangsta rap, which was somewhat out of control. And this is actually what happened after the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. Things changed and it was no longer as it was before. But anyways, this still remained just a theory. In 1997, Kifidi, who was an informant, told the police that Puff Daddy offered the Crips gang $1 million to kill Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. Despite all this, Diddy was not arrested because, as they said, the confessions were not strong and there had to be evidence that he was 100% involved in the matter. When they asked Puff Daddy about this topic, this is how he answered them.
We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you. We wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
After everything that happened to Death Row, everyone knew they would seek revenge for Tupac, and all members of Death Row were scared at that time. Here, the Kingpin's bodyguard will contact Puff Daddy's personal bodyguard and tell him that Biggie's head is wanted in Los Angeles, so he should not try to come here, because as soon as he enters the city, he will die. And in February 1997, Biggie and Diddy and all the members of the Bad Boy Records went to Los Angeles to promote Biggie's new album that named Life After Death. And even Diddy went to record his new album too, which is No Way Out. One of Diddy's close friends, Lil C's, said that Biggie wanted to go to Los Angeles to defy the members of Death Row because despite everything that happened, Biggie loved his fans in the West Coast and because they also loved him. But the spotlight there was more for Tupac, to be honest. After Tupac's death, Biggie wanted to stay away from all the trouble as much as possible. In 1997, Biggie and Puff Daddy had just left the party for the Vibe magazine and were riding in an SUV when they stopped in the first stop. A Chevrolet Impala vehicle stopped beside them, rolled down the window and opened fire on Biggie. The same scenario that happened with Tupac. That night, we lost one of the rap icons in America, the notorious B.I.G. In the same way, Tupac was assassinated. Here, people start asking many questions. Where was Biggie's security team? How they could reach him so easily, despite the fact that Puff Daddy knew that Biggie's life is being targeted in the city. Here, a member of the death row will come out and said that they didn't have enough money to afford a security team. But wait a second, the strange thing is that Keffi D, whom we said was an informant for the police, came to Puff Daddy that night and offered him protection. But Puff Daddy refused and decided to take Biggie out and gave strange orders to his personal bodyguard, contrary to Biggie's protection.
So he says to me, Gene, if you don't get in this car, you ain't gonna never work for Bad Boy ever again. I said, man, how the fuck you gonna try to tell me how to do my job? He said, Gene, we don't need that look. We don't need that look. Get in the car.
According to an FBI agent named Phil Carson, who investigated the case for years, he discovered that Suge Knight had assigned Amir Muhammad to carry out the mission. The agent said that the real target was Puff Daddy and not Biggie. And later, Puff Daddy's personal bodyguard would confirm this and said that Puff was their target because he also had issues with the Muslim community in that area.
I believe it was meant for Puff. For whatever reason, the people that was trying to kill Puff, Big became a casualty.
And Biggie died because of Puff Daddy's selfishness. After Biggie entered the hospital, Lil Cease saw Biggie's killer and described him to Puff Daddy's personal bodyguard. The bodyguard was shocked because the killer described to him had gotten out of Puff Daddy's car, which means that Puff Daddy was the one who planned Biggie's assassination. But these are still claims from others, and there is no conclusive evidence. But let's think about this logically. Who benefited from the deaths of Tupac and Biggie and all these issues? It's so clear. It's Puff Daddy. He openly said once that his only concern is money and nothing else. Some say that Puff Daddy did not plan Biggie's murder, but they agree that Puff Daddy was careless with Biggie's life, which led to his death. But many also say that Puff Daddy saw that the death row sales after the first week of Tupac's death were so high. And 2 months later, Death Row released the album The Don Illuminati, and 67,000 copies were sold. And to this day, Tupac has sold more than 75 million copies. Of course, Puff Daddy saw all this. And for your information, Puff Daddy owned the rights to Biggie's songs because he bought them from him for $200,000 in 1995. This means that for any song Biggie sang or wrote, Puff Daddy gets a share of the profits. Biggie was not just a singer, he was also a songwriter, and he wrote the entire Junior Mafia album. Puff Daddy was making millions of dollars from all of this. And to this day, he continues to profit from Biggie's music. After Biggie's death, his mother came out and said that her son didn't know what he was doing, and that Puff Daddy had swindled him in his early years for $25,000. Today, Diddy is considered one of the most successful businessmen in the music industry in the world. But perhaps his end has also begun. As for now, he is detained in prison. And by the way, for those who want to see the full story of his entry into prison, the episode will appear now on your screen. And here, we have reached the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support me. See you next time and take care.